Get on to the Singapore analogy in just a second, but we're reporting this morning that Jacob Rees-Mogg has hinted quite strongly on the Conservative Home website that he may now be prepared to back Theresa May's deal. William Hague, writing in The Telegraph this morning, says it's better than the options that are likely to be presented today in Parliament. What say you?
Well, they're probably right that it is better than the options that are likely to be presented in Parliament. However, what ought to flow from the 2016 referendum is Brexit. And what should flow from that binary choice of between leave or stay should then be a binary choice between leaving with the agreement that the Prime Minister negotiated or leaving with no agreement between us and the EU. And the Prime Minister ought to be presenting Parliament with that choice. And if she did so, she would then find that she has the best chance of getting her deal across the line because the Labour Party and the Nationalists would be presented with going through on their rhetoric, which is saying just how unacceptable no agreement is.
But as you know, Parliament's set its face against no deal, hasn't it?
But all of this is now within the Prime Minister's gift, which is because she's so close to the finishing line, with all the authority and powers of her office, she can make Parliament face up to that binary choice. And what was very disappointing, incredibly disappointing, about her statement yesterday is that she's not going to do that. And she is allowing Parliament to run away into the weeds with these indicative votes, with other alternatives to that binary choice. And they're the only two options that actually honour her commitment to get Brexit done. And she should leave Parliament in the vice of that choice.
Yeah, but there'd be uproar in Parliament, wouldn't there, if she said, no, it's going to be a binary choice, no, Parliament, you can't extend a deadline.
Well, she's quite entitled to do that because 85% of the MPs in there were elected on a mandate to deliver Brexit.
Well, they don't seem to be heeding that, do they?
Well, that's exactly the issue. So there is a test of authority between Parliament and people. The people
that's between the individual MP and their constituents, isn't it?
Well, except that they had a contract with the people, which was represented by the terms, the manifesto on which they stood to get elected in 2017. And all the Labour and Conservative MPs, possibly with the exception of Ken Clarke, whose position would have been extremely well known, were elected to get Brexit done. And the only way you get Brexit done is either by accepting the terms of her agreement or looking at those terms, setting them against the implications of leaving the European Union with no agreement and supporting that option. And people need to come to a view as to which is the best option to deliver Brexit. Where we are now going is allowing all the Remainers in Parliament, which represents 3/4 of the MPs, to wriggle away from that choice. And if they're allowed to wriggle away from that choice, surprise, surprise, they're going to do it. But of course, that means that she will not honour the commitment she gave, but also the commitment 85% of us gave to our electorate in 2017. So this Parliament is in breach of contract with the electorate.
I mentioned your Singapore analogy. You said yesterday, I quote, that her statement will represent the most shameful surrender by a British leader since Singapore in 1942. Churchill eventually won that war.
Well, I said since. And so if you like, the most damaging British reversal, I think, since 1942 would have been Suez. So I'm saying that this crisis that the European Union has inflicted on the United Kingdom by the conduct of the negotiations, and to which the Prime Minister is party because she has chosen to go down the route she's going down, presenting a dreadful agreement to the House of Commons and not accompanying it by giving us the option of leaving the European Union with no agreement, is worse than Suez. That's what I'm saying in that statement. And be under no illusion, the damage to national self-confidence and the national psyche from this episode will be as bad, if, in my judgment, worse than what was inflicted by the Suez crisis. That represented a reality check on the United Kingdom about the limitations of our power. What we have inflicted and are inflicting on ourselves is the closing off of the opportunities that come from leaving the European Union and moving to a different global role.
OK, just two quick thoughts, if I may. I quoted the last part of your statement from yesterday. Earlier on, you talk about the behest of this Remainer Parliament.
Yeah.
If the problem is a Remainer Parliament, why not just have a general election and get the Parliament that you want?
Well, I rather agree with you, because if the Prime Minister followed my advice, she would throw down the gauntlet to Parliament and say, if you don't like the choice I'm presenting you with, on which I believe you were elected and you have the duty to follow through, you are always entitled to vote no confidence in my government and remove me from office. And then there would be a general election. That, or the people who remove from office could, of course, choose to support Jeremy Corbyn in a coalition government to do the opposite of what we were elected. And now that choice is open to parliamentarians, and I would, in those circumstances, of course, am then prepared to follow through for my party to go back to the country to say, we are going to get this done. And it will either be with the agreement we've negotiated, or it will be with no agreement. And that will be the choice of the Parliament that you then elect. And that would be the mandate I would seek as an advice that whoever the next Conservative leader is, or indeed this Conservative leader, to present to the electorate. So if you're asking me, does that mean there might be a general election if you follow my route? Yes, of course it does.
Might a simpler way of expediting business simply be by making sure that this afternoon a lectern appears outside Downing Street without the official government crest? And actually, no, that doesn't happen. That would involve calling a general election. But for Theresa May simply to say, actually, I've done all I can, it's time for somebody else to take over.
Well, that's got to be a decision for her.
Prompted by backbenchers.
The very reason that I supported the vote of no confidence her in December is I had no idea what she would do in the circumstances she is now presented with. But I clung to the hope that she was going to do what she had said she was going to do 108 times, is get us to leave on the 29th of March this year. Yesterday, she formally reneged on that position. However, our failure to remove her in December means she's free from challenge until next December.
OK. Crispin Blunt, good of you to join us. Thanks very much.